discovery of putting different melody notes and adding chords. And later. Giradini fa la guerra, fa la guerra e la madre, fa la guerra e fa la madre. Straighter. Remember I told you that it was curved that way to hold the strings? Alright, so now the guitar. This is the first guitar to use metal strings. So wire was starting to be used in the strings. Before that it was like analog gut. But now metal strings changes the sound of the guitar. It's great for strumming.
Cello, and there's a bigger one, bass, and then the viola is in between. Violin, viola, cello, bass. Now I want to talk to you about how the instrument has changed over the centuries. The modern violin has pretty much a flat back, but it used to be bowed or curved, much like the bass is the only instrument that has kept the curved back. And there are no frets on the fingerboard, those of you who play violin know, but it used to have frets like a guitar. And it has 4 strings, but it used to have doubled strings, or as many as 6 or 8 strings. And it was used to drum. And the violin today, in classical technique, they hold it pretty high, and you reach the high notes. But it used to be held quite low in the arm, kind of like a fiddle, and it was used to drum. It was held so low in the arm in the Renaissance, it was called viola da braccia. Braccia means arm. And the ancestor of the cello was held like this, viola da gamba, on the leg, gamba. Now I want to show you an instrument I have that is a replica. It's called a rebec, and it's a replica of the medieval instrument. You see the bow is quite different. It's shaped like a bow and arrow, and it's very curved. This back is still kind of flat, but the instrument was held like this. And the bow is much shorter. So I'm going to play you a dance from the medieval time into the Renaissance. This is called club brawl, and I'll dance a simple medieval dance called a brawl. We did it when you were walking in. It goes.
Wind instruments. There were more than 100 of them. There was no standard type of wind instrument during the Middle Ages. They came from other countries. They traveled around. They changed from town to town. They played different versions of them. And most of the medieval wind instruments were called pipes. And I'm sure you've heard of like a pipe and drum corps, or you've heard of like the Pied Piper. That's a story from the Middle Ages. They called the wind instruments pipes, even though they had different shapes and different sizes. The only medieval instrument that's come back into modern use is this one right here, and you'd probably recognize it. Yes?
Well,
is a type of flute, and the flute is played on the end. It has a special name. You know what it is? Recorder. Okay. Have some of you played the recorder? Okay. Yes, we have some recorder players. Excellent. Well, the recorder goes back to the 1300s. And this version of it is actually came about in the 1500s, the early 1500s. Earlier in the medieval times, it was a different shape. It was very straight. It had the inside, which is called the bore, was exactly straight. So you didn't have a very large range. And for that reason, they made them in many different sizes so they could play all of the notes, high and low. And the recorder pipe had a much fuller sound in the medieval times because they used it a lot outdoors and it had to be louder. And it wasn't as refined, didn't have to play as many notes. So it could just be heard outside. Traveling from town to town, troubadours played this instrument. And it sounds a little like this. Which is actually a German name which stuck, and we still call it a Garklein today. Does anybody know what that means? Anybody know any German? Garklein in German means entirely small, and that's what it is. It's as small as you can get. It's the smallest instrument. You see, you can't get your fingers any closer together than that. Your fingers are touching, and it's very small. So what do you think the pitch is like? High, low, or what?
High.
High, exactly, and it sounds a little